Squeaky Brakes cop. I've never had any problems with police. Every time I get pulled over or for a ticket, I'm very respectful. None of those involved having criminal backgrounds. And I just graduated a large university with a criminal justice pre-law degree. My two best friends, Ali and Lena, are generally nice people. At the time, we were all newly 21, and they were fairly attractive young women. I have the good personality. We all live within 5 minutes walking distance of each other's homes, and the town itself that we live in is just under 1 square mile. It's one of those everyone knows each other homes and each other's business type towns. We jokingly used to say that you could literally do anything you wanted because we never ever seen a cop. And most people have never heard of it either. It's not on most GPSs or maps. The college semester had just ended, so we settled in our usual summer routine. I would get off work waitressing late nights a town over. I would drive to Allie's, have a beer or two, hang out, and go home. If I ever had more than 2 beers, I walked home or slept there so I could get drunk. One of the first nights of summer, I was just leaving Allie's around 1 a.m. I turn onto my street and notice a car parked in this weird lot that is essentially just grass and dirt and a couple houses down from mine. As I drive by, I see it's a cop. Whoa, never seen one in our town before, so it was actually a little weird. I remember texting Allie and being all, "There's a cop on my street, weird." Got home, went to bed, forgot about it. I went to Allie's with Lena almost every single night. We didn't have many other friends, or money to go to the bar, honestly. Every night I would drive home. The cop would be in the weird lot. I always saw a shadow of a guy in the car, but it's dark, usually after 1 a.m., and I'm not about to stop and see who it is. He was never there during the day. One night, following the same routine, I drive by the lot, and as I did, saw the cop car's headlights flip on. The car whipped out of the lot and sped up so close to the back of my car that I honestly thought I was going to be hit. Immediately, I'm terrified. He is dangerously close to my car. He flips on his red and blue lights, but at that point, I'm able to turn into my driveway. I turn in and turn off my car, but don't exit my vehicle. I honestly thought I was being pulled over in my own driveway. I'm scrambling for my license, nervous as hell, when I see the cop just waiting at the top of my driveway. Lights turned off at this point. He sits for a minute and drives off, doing way over the speed limit on a sleepy side street. I'm scared for a few reasons. I had, at the time, a very distinct car. My lovable old PT Cruiser was a red racing stripe to ensure I never got laid. My dad's gift to me as a 17-year-old. The cop knew my car. If I had the same routine every night, and he was at least a little observant, he would see my car turn into my driveway always at 1 a.m. I also wasn't doing anything illegal. I was shaken, but decided to forget it. Texted my friends, all agreed it was weird, but whatever. He was either being a dick or I forgot to put a blinker on and he decided to let me go. It was whatever, until it happened every night after. For a week straight, every time I turned down my street after Allie's, the cop flipped on his lights, rode my car's bumpers to my driveway, and sped off. It's clear at this point, he's just being a dick, but I don't get the point. I was scared, honestly, but my friends always turned it into a joke, so I guess I did too. The element that made it hard to comprehend the situation was that this was a cop, and I was a younger, more shy than I am now, and really didn't know how to address this issue. The cop did have one distinct quality: his brakes. They were the squeakiest brakes I've ever heard in my entire life. You could hear him coming around a turn from across the state. He had earned himself a nickname, Squeaky Brakes Cop. This harassment happened for a week. By the 3rd week of summer, Squeaky Brakes was gone. No one tailed me home. All was well. Until my friends got their first taste of old Squeaky Brakes. Allie and I were sitting on her front porch as she smoked a cigarette. It was about 5 p.m. in the afternoon, and we were making plans for the night. Lena was on her way. We were in the middle of laughing about something when I heard them. The Squeaky Brakes. I said something along the lines of, "I bet this is the cop coming around the corner. You'll finally see who's been bothering me." I was right. Allie laughed a little as he drove past her house. She agreed he had the squeakiest brakes in the world. He slowed down as he drove by, and then disappeared out of sight. But we heard him coming back, and you could tell he was driving fast. He slammed on his squeaky fucking brakes and stopped at the end of Allie's driveway, and got out of the car. He was far enough away that if I ever ran into him on the street, I wouldn't be able to ID him. He had those aviator glasses on, his little cop hat, the gun and badge, the uniform, the works. But he didn't speak. He just stood at the end of the driveway, hands on his hips, looking at us. I mentioned earlier I was a criminal justice pre-law major, and my friends consider me their go-to-free lawyer, because I know just a little better to what to say to cops and what your rights are. Allie whispered to me something along the lines of, "What the fuck is happening?" So I decided, whatever, we have to address this, and I called out to him. "Can we help you, officer?" He didn't speak for a minute, but eventually speaks up. "What are you young ladies up to? Smoking weed out that funny smelling cigarette?" It was so surreal. Who even says things like that? I calmly answered, "No, it's just a regular cigarette." And Allie held up her box of Marlboro Reds as some form of proof. He didn't answer, just fucking stared at us. Then he said so coldly, "Well, if there's no weed up there, why don't you invite me inside so I can check for myself and we won't have any problems? Pretty girls shouldn't smoke." Problems? Pretty girls shouldn't smoke? Whatever. Now I realize this is a cop on a power trip, trying to be intimidating. Allie is clearly nervous, so I do my thing and say, "No, officer, that won't be necessary. We're just gonna go inside anyways. There's no issues here and this is private property. I really hope you have a great rest of your day though. Thank you." I literally grab Allie and pull her inside. I acted cool in front of the guy, but I'm nervous. What is this cop's deal? We watch as he got into his car and left. Always him those squeaky brakes. Allie texted me that week saying Squeaky Brakes had been circling her house every night. He had stopped following me home, but he had also been circling my house as well. I always heard his brakes leave the end of my street when I was in bed. My bed was on the second floor directly under this huge window I always left open that faces the street. I always peeked up and saw his car leaving when I heard the brakes. One night I was in bed, heard the brakes, but didn't hear the car make a turn or drive. It sounded like he stopped right outside my window. I was tired and used to the cops' nonsense, so didn't bother looking. I was in the process of trying to sleep when out of nowhere, my room lights up. Huge, bright lights just illuminating my room. Honest to God, my first thought was alien abduction, until rational thoughts replaced it. I sit up in bed, terrified, and looked out the window to be blinded by the brightest light I'd ever seen. It takes me a minute, but I realize it's the friggin' spotlight on Squeaky Brake Cop's car. He's literally shining me down with a spotlight in the comfort of my own bedroom. I'm scared, angry, confused. That, to me, was too far. I had to do something. It was an invasion of privacy. The next night, me and my friends all met up at Allie's as usual. Lena hadn't seen the cop yet. That night, he must have circled once an hour when he saw my car at Allie's. So Lena finally knew what we were talking about, and finally understood the nickname Squeaky Brakes Cop. We came to a weird agreement, and the agreement was that we just had to deal with it. It sounds stupid, and I know he had crossed the line in terms of doing his job and abusing his power, but who could we tell? The cops? Honestly, we were terrified it would get a lot worse if we did. In hindsight, and being a few years older now, I'm kicking myself we didn't. But we were 21 and didn't want to be involved in anything like that. The consensus was that it was funny, or that he's got a crush on us, or that we can handle this. The final showdown with the cop happened the last week of summer. All summer, the cop was always circling, and living in fear of this dude just became an everyday thing. One of the last days of summer, though, we got a ton of beer and decided to get stupid blackout drunk in Allie's yard around a fire pit as a goodbye to summer. We had been drinking more heavily than normal, and we heard the ever-faithful squeak of those brakes. I fucking hate this guy. I really fucking hate that there's nothing else he could rather do than bother us, and we never do anything wrong. Allie starts going off in this rant, yada yada yada. He circles once and slows as he sees us sitting in the yard. He shines his damn spotlight on us, bright as fuck, and Allie blows a kiss suggestively. He turns it off and we laugh. He speeds away. I don't want to see him again. Let's go inside before he gets back, so he looks stupid for coming to look for us again, is Lena's suggestion. We all agreed and, all a little drunk, decide to run as fast as we can to the door. I trip, and holding a 30-pack, fall to the ground and the beers fall everywhere. It's hysterical. We were all laughing, picking them up, and hear the cop coming back. He pulls up again, and we were in hysterics because my fall was so comical. He must have seen us laughing, and I don't know if that's what set him off, but what happened next was terrifying. He rolled down his window, screamed, "Get the fuck inside!" and flipped on his red and blue lights. Fuck. We don't know whether he meant inside his cruiser or inside the house, but we obviously opted for the house. We ran up her porch and into the house. The cops sat there outside for a minute and then sped off. They must have been doing 90 miles per hour on a 25-mile-per-hour road. We ran to Allie's room and opened her blinds. We heard him coming, so we peeked out. He would slow down in front of her house, turn on his lights, and whip off. Slow down, turn on lights, and whip off. This time it wasn't funny, it seemed menacing. It seemed incredibly aggressive. We counted, and he circled her house 38 times. After deeming it safe, we cuddled and had more beers and fell asleep together. It got to the point of harassment that I did the next best thing to calling the cops. I told my mom. She actually took me seriously and said in the mornings, "There's been a cop hanging out near our driveway, but he's always gone when she gets back." She said once she asked him if he could move because he was blocking our driveway, and he just rolled up his window. The night we credit to the harassment ending was the night I took a stand. I'm a light sleeper, and it was about 2:30 a.m. when a bright light jerked me from my sleep. The spotlight in my room again. Summer was about over, and this cop has essentially ruined it for me, and I was done. I got my bearings and went to the window. I stood in it, blinds all the way up, until the cop turned off the spotlight. He didn't leave. It was very weird. Uncomfortable showdown. I grabbed my phone, turned the flash on, shoved my arm out the window, and yelled down the street, "I really hope you don't mind me taking your picture!" I swear to God, I've never seen a car drive faster or peel out quicker. He was gone before my flash was even halfway done going off. He never came back. Later that night, he was sitting outside Lena's house for a first time. He was blocking her driveway. She pulled up next to him, asked him politely to move so she could get home. And he said, "I bet you want to get home." This was the last conversation and experience any of us had with him, and I haven't seen him since. This might not seem too creepy, but it was an unmarked, clearly poor maintained cop car. He had the lights, the outfit, everything, but it wasn't until after the summer that we realized that maybe this guy wasn't a real cop. And if he was, he really has no respect for his position or how he treats people, and clearly abuses his authority. I still always check when someone with squeaky brakes passes my house. So, Squeaky Brakes cop, let's not meet. Ever. Sketchy Detroit cop tries to get me in his car at 2 a.m. for no reason. I'm 25 years old, female, and an exotic dancer, living in the Detroit area. This story takes place on my way home from work one night at 2 a.m. at the gas station near my house about a week ago. My boyfriend had needed to use the car. He dropped me off to work and picked me up, so he was driving. There was a cop car parked right in front of the entrance, but other than that, we were the only customers. My boyfriend parked at the pump farthest from the entrance, and I got out to buy cigs. As I walked in, I immediately almost bumped into a very tall, very buff police officer. He was standing in front of the cashier and talking loudly, oblivious to the fact that the cashier had no idea what he was saying. I apologized for bumping into him. "It's okay, sweetie. Say, what are you? Like, where are you from? You look mixed." "Guam," I said, annoyed, but still courteous. I'm terrified of police, especially Detroit cops. "Guam, huh? A lot of hookers there, yeah?" He laughed. I wouldn't know. I'm just a little girl," I mumbled, trying to move past him to the register to buy my smokes. He was blocking my way. Suddenly, he reached an arm out and placed it on the small of my back. And because I was wearing a short coat, he easily wriggled his hand underneath it and my shirt, touching my bare skin. "Well, you're not a little girl anymore, eh?" He was now pushing me slightly, guiding me back out the door. The way the store was set up, we were only a foot away or so from the door. I was panicking a little bit, but because he was a cop, I didn't know how to react. I had been in plenty similar situations without freezing up, but his authority really fucked up with my head. So I was confused. I wasn't sure what he was doing. We exited the store. His empty squad car was parked directly outside the doors. He was leading me towards it, talking loudly. "I'm cruising alone tonight. I could jack off if I wanted to. I love riding alone." His voice was echoing loudly throughout the pumps. I was scared, but started dragging my feet a little, realizing how fucked up this really was. Suddenly, I heard a car door slam and my boyfriend yelling my name. The cop's hand dropped away from my back and beelined for a squad car without saying a word. Because the way my car was parked behind the pump, the cop had not realized I wasn't alone. My boyfriend had the window cracked because he was smoking a cig, and he had heard the cop making creepy comments, and then spotted me being led to the squad car. He said I looked like a zombie. He had never seen me like that before. It freaked him out really bad. He slammed the car door and called my name and ran over to me. By the time he got to me, the cop had left and I had snapped out of it. I started crying. A million thoughts went through my head. I was wearing heavy makeup, probably because I just left work. Maybe he thought I was a hooker. I hadn't stopped him. He probably thought I wanted whatever he wanted to do to me. I felt ashamed and embarrassed. My boyfriend did his best to console me. He even tried to ask the cashier for help, but he spoke no English and he just kept saying, no cops, please." He was probably illegal, I understand. He also had no idea what had just happened. I mean, I was there and I could hardly process it. In the end, we just went home and tried to forget about it. I've been avoiding that gas station and I never go out alone anymore. My heart stops for a second every time I see a Detroit cop behind me while I'm driving. Creeper Cop. Whenever I browse here, I'm always astounded that so many people have these experiences. And then I remember my own, and realize pretty much everyone runs into a creeper at some point in their lives. I was 21, and I just moved from Oregon back to Georgia via a cross-country drive. And being a silly 21-year-old, let my tags expire before switching the registration. Long story short, I get pulled over on my way back to work one morning and my car gets impounded. This means I get to wait at the police station while my roommate comes to pick me up and rush me to work. So, here's a 21-year-old blonde chick all dressed up to go to work in a nice salon, standing at the corner in a suburban police station, thinking it's all hilarious. The other officers are all standing around joking with me and giving me advice on how not to be a ditz. And one officer in particular is laying it on pretty thick. This guy is maybe mid to late 20s and really unfortunate looking. We're talking about gray skin, tragic balding pattern, and eyes and lips that were so fish-like I couldn't look at him without feeling like I was in the shadow over Innsmouth. That didn't stop me from being nice to him. I'm a gregarious person even at the worst of times, and besides, who the heck is gonna antagonize a cop? Anyways, my friend gets to me, I go to work, and get my car that evening. Done and done, right? Wrong. 2 days later, I get a phone call from a blocked number. It's the cop from the station, inviting me to a seafood dinner. I shit you not, those were his words. Best part, his name is Lester. Oh, Lester. I tried to let him down easy and make up a boyfriend, to which he replied, "Of course you have a boyfriend, but I bet he doesn't deserve you. Let me show you how it's done." Yikes. I gracefully declined again and got off the phone. That's when it dawned on me that this police officer had gone into the computer system and gotten my personal information so he could ask me out on a date. I didn't know how to proceed. That's when it got really scary to me anyways. He started calling my cell phone daily, at least 4 times a day, to ask me out, and then started calling the salon where I worked and hang up over and over and over again. That's not even the bad part. When I stopped answering his calls and stopped being nice, he started buzzing our house in his cop car. My roommate at the time wasn't the most law-abiding citizen. She sold weed basically, and this made me even more nervous. All he had to do was get pissed at my rejection and bust us both. Also, this is the state of Georgia, where the cops are basically sexist and kinda twisted. This guy typified that by acting like every time he called me was the first time. Every message he left was, "Hey, this is Lester from the police station," like he hadn't been harassing me for 2 months. I realized that I probably should have reported this guy, but what are the odds of action being taken against him by the very agency he's a member of? Anyways, eventually, at my parents' request, I ended up moving back in with them for a couple months until darling Lester lost interest and stopped calling and doing the drive-by thing. He did, however, keep calling the salon I was managing for a few months, and would even leave breathing messages on the voicemail when the salon was closed. It would have been comical if he wasn't a cop. I've never trusted the police anyways, but that absolutely ruined it for me. And that's my story of being stalked by an officer of the law. Cop stalker. To the cop that pulled me over and I'm afraid might be stalking me. I'm sure we will meet again very soon, but can we not? Hey friends, I just want to put a disclaimer that I'm probably more vigilant than the average person about these things. As a frequent reader of this sub and Reddit Unresolved Mysteries, and I'm aware that because of this, it might also make me a bit more paranoid about seemingly innocuous or unrelated things. I'm aware of how batshit this story sounds, and until today, I haven't spoken about it to anyone. But after commenting about my experience with Texas cops in another sub, I decided to post here and get some feedback. I'm not crazy, just incredibly frightened. Anyways, recently, I got pulled over by a cop in my current Texas town and let off with a warning. My infraction? Not signaling a lane change in case it's relevant. Whatever we talk, he's attractive, friendly enough, I crack jokes, he does the same. I did my innocent white girl act to get out of the ticket. It works, and he asked for my information to fill out the warning citation. I go on my way, and he follows me to my destination, which is my friend's house down the street. Weird, but maybe he thought I had been drinking. Promptly forgot about it, only to have him text and ask me out the next day. I've been in a relationship for 4 years and I'm not interested, so I ignore it. And then I just kinda get mad. I already don't really like cops, and obtaining my number like that seems shitty and is an abuse of power, so I reported him, showed them the text, except not unsurprisingly, his text used language implying I gave him my number in the first place, and even less surprisingly, that was his story when he was asked about it. So yeah, nothing ever came from it. Probably not this cowboy's first rodeo, and he seemingly covered his ass, which upset me more. Which brings me to the present. I see him parked on my street about once a week. 2 days ago, I got into my car only to have it start shaking a block from my house. And when I pulled over, one of my lug nuts was missing and the others had been loosened. My wheels was about to come off. This made me realize that I need to be more vigilant about changing up my routine. I saw the cop parked on my street on my way home from the late night shift at work the previous night. 9 times out of 10, I go shower and let my dog out. Then I go to my friends to crack a beer and do some HW for a few hours before bed. The other night, my friend picked me up instead. I swear I'm not crazy, I haven't been able to tell anyone about this in real life because it sounds so improbable. This cop is watching me and trying to sabotage my car. He would have known I'd only make it halfway down the road before breaking down, and then he would have swooped in to help. Fortunately, I deviated from the norm and didn't notice it or drive my car until about 5 p.m. the following day. I'm actually pretty terrified. I know I sound paranoid as fuck, but I'm pretty sure I might be being stalked and fucked with by a cop I rejected and reported. And I have absolutely no evidence yet. I already ordered dash cams and another one for outside my house, but I know no one at the PD here would believe me if it were true. So, to the shitty cop who sits on my street and watches me come and go, pull over to get my number and might be escalating, let's not meet, but if we do, and if it goes badly for me, at least I posted about it on Reddit, where someone could eventually find it and make the connection.